Your thoughts hold secrets that can transform your life, but only if you truly listen. Have you ever paused to do so? It can feel like stepping into a crowded room where everyone is shouting at once. The Dalai Lama teaches that meditation is not just about achieving silence, it's about learning to understand the noise within and transform it into a symphony. Imagine sitting quietly, letting your thoughts drift like clouds across a clear blue sky, a sky untouched by the cloud's fleeting presence. It might seem impossible at first. But with patience and consistency, this simple act becomes one of the most transformative experiences you can ever undertake. Meditation is about finding the observer within you. Instead of being caught in the storm of anxiety or fear, you learn to step back and watch it, just as you might watch a storm from the comfort of your home. You begin to realize that these emotions, which often feel so overwhelming, are like the weather: they come, they stay for a while, and they pass. Isn't it comforting to know that these moments of stillness can bring profound clarity? The Dalai Lama often encourages us to meditate on compassion. Imagine focusing on the happiness of others instead of your worries, allowing yourself to feel connected to those around you. Wouldn't that bring a sense of freedom? Meditation, especially when done with an emphasis on compassion, becomes a way to unlock a deeper sense of connection with others. When we meditate, we train our minds to stop focusing solely on our fears. In those quiet moments, we begin to see ourselves as part of something greater, as part of a larger humanity. Try this today. Dedicate just 10 minutes to mindful breathing. Picture every breath as a gentle wave washing away your anxieties. As you exhale, let your worries drift away. Can you feel the shift in your body and mind? Imagine a mother caring for her child. In those moments of tenderness, the mother is fully present, not thinking of her own fears, but focused entirely on the well-being of her child. This kind of presence is what meditation cultivates. You learn to be present not just for others but for yourself, to sit with your own mind and allow it to calm down, like a restless child who eventually feels safe enough to fall asleep. Consider the example of Thich Nhat Hanh, another well-known spiritual teacher, who speaks of the power of breathing mindfully to bring peace to ourselves and those around us. He describes the simple act of taking a deep breath as a way to return to the present moment, to return to life itself. When we practice this regularly, meditation transforms from a mere exercise into a profound way of living. Meditation is not an escape from life but a way to fully engage with it. Picture an artist working on a complex painting, each stroke deliberate and mindful. In those moments, the artist is meditating, completely absorbed in the process without being distracted by fears or doubts. In a similar way, meditation allows us to be fully engaged in the art of living. Another powerful example of meditation's impact comes from athletes who practice visualization as a form of meditation. Consider a long-distance runner who visualizes completing a marathon, feeling every muscle movement, every breath. This mental practice, akin to meditation, helps the athlete build resilience and maintain focus, not just during training but in life as well. Meditation can be our inner training ground, where we build the mental stamina needed to face life's challenges. Think of the times you felt overwhelmed by negative thoughts. Meditation teaches us that we are not our thoughts, we are simply the observer. This realization alone can be life-changing. The Dalai Lama often speaks of the monkey mind, a restless, jumping mind that never settles. Through meditation, we train the monkey to sit quietly, to observe without reacting. It is in this space of non-reactivity that true transformation begins. Feeling overwhelmed? Learn to calm your monkey mind through meditation. Subscribe now for calming practices and philosophical insights. Developing compassion, the heart's liberation. What if the antidote to your deepest fears wasn't found by looking inward, but by reaching outward, by truly seeing others? Compassion, as the Dalai Lama beautifully reminds us, is like a bridge that turns isolation into connection, fear into love. When was the last time you felt lighter just by lending a helping hand to someone in need? Compassion has this incredible ability to break us out of our self-constructed cages of anxiety. Fear often arises because we become too focused on ourselves, on our own sense of loss, or danger, or the things that might go wrong in our lives. Compassion shifts this focus outward. When you look into the eyes of another human being and recognize their struggles, doesn't it create a bond, a shared experience of being human? Compassion dissolves the barriers we create between ourselves and others, reminding us that we are all navigating this complex and sometimes challenging journey of life. True compassion, as the Dalai Lama teaches, is not just about feeling empathy for those we already love or agree with. It's about extending that same kindness to all beings, even those we may find challenging or difficult. Imagine the strength of heart it takes to wish peace and happiness for someone who has hurt you. Yet, isn't that the kind of love that heals not only others but also yourself? The practice of compassion is not limited to great, heroic acts. It's in the small, everyday gestures that we show others that they are seen and cared for. Imagine standing in line at the grocery store, and instead of being frustrated at the wait, you strike up a friendly conversation with the cashier who has had a long day. That moment of connection, however brief, is an expression of compassion. It's the understanding that everyone we meet is carrying some burden, often invisible, and that our kindness can lighten that load. The Dalai Lama speaks about cultivating compassion as a lifelong endeavor, one that begins with small steps. He suggests that we start by developing compassion for those closest to us, our family and friends, before extending it outward to strangers and even to those we consider enemies. This gradual expansion of compassion helps us build emotional resilience and a sense of interconnectedness that can be profoundly healing. Consider the story of Mahatma Gandhi, who showed immense compassion even toward those who opposed him. His commitment to nonviolence and understanding changed the course of history. Compassion, as he demonstrated, is not a sign of weakness but of profound strength. Imagine how different our world would be if we all practiced a little more compassion, even in the face of conflict. Another example is Mother Teresa, who devoted her life to serving the poorest of the poor. Her compassion was not limited by borders, religion, or beliefs. She saw the humanity in each person and acted from that understanding. We may not all be called to such an extraordinary path, but we can each find ways to bring more compassion into our daily lives. A question to ponder: who in your life could use a little extra kindness today? What if your smile, your words, or your actions could bring light into their day? Wouldn't that also lighten your own heart? Think of a time when someone showed you compassion, even in a small way, a comforting word, a helping hand. How did it make you feel? That feeling is the power of compassion. It is not only about helping others, it transforms the giver as well. The Dalai Lama reminds us that compassion is also about self-compassion. How often do we judge ourselves harshly for our mistakes? Imagine speaking to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend in need. Self-compassion allows us to heal, to grow, and to become more capable of offering genuine compassion to others. Without it, our well of kindness runs dry. Understanding the nature of reality, nothing lasts forever. Here's a liberating thought: everything you fear, every challenge you face, will one day pass. Isn't that both humbling and empowering? The Dalai Lama often reminds us that the impermanence of all things is not something to fear, but rather something to understand deeply and embrace. We often suffer because we hold on so tightly to our worries, our problems, our sense of self, as though they are permanent fixtures in our lives. But everything is temporary, like the seasons that come and go. The flowers that bloom in spring are gone by autumn, yet we do not lament their passing because we know they will return. Our fears and anxieties are much like those flowers: they arise, they bloom, and eventually, they fade away. By recognizing the fleeting nature of fear, we cultivate a sense of acceptance and detachment. This doesn't mean we ignore our problems, it means we understand their true nature. Imagine facing a problem and asking yourself, "Can I solve this?" If the answer is yes, then focus on the solution with all your heart. If the answer is no, then why waste your energy worrying about something you cannot change? Wouldn't it be more fulfilling to invest that energy into something positive, something that brings joy or helps others? The concept of impermanence is a core teaching in Buddhism. It reminds us that clinging to anything, whether it is our fears, our successes, or even our relationships, leads to suffering. Instead, we are encouraged to appreciate each moment for what it is, a transient experience that will eventually change. Consider a river flowing endlessly toward the ocean. Each drop of water in that river is constantly changing, moving, and merging with other drops. Our lives are much like that river, ever-changing and interconnected with everything around us. In the face of difficult emotions, such as anger or sadness, remembering impermanence can be particularly helpful. Think about a time when you were deeply upset, maybe you felt heartbroken or betrayed. In that moment, it may have felt like the pain would never end. But eventually, it did. The storm passed, and you found yourself standing in the sunlight again. Remembering the impermanence of all things helps us stay grounded during times of difficulty and grateful during times of joy. Consider the teachings of the Buddha, who often spoke of the Four Noble Truths, which include the understanding that suffering is a part of life, and that it arises from our attachment to things that are inherently impermanent. By letting go of this attachment, we can find true peace. Imagine holding sand in your hand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. But if you hold it loosely, it remains. Life is much the same. The Dalai Lama also uses the metaphor of a rainbow. A rainbow is beautiful, but it is fleeting. We can appreciate its beauty without clinging to it, knowing it will disappear. Our experiences, both joyful and painful, are like that rainbow. By understanding this, we can embrace life fully, without fear of losing what we love or being overwhelmed by what we dislike. Reflection exercise: when a fear arises, pause and ask yourself, can I solve this? If yes, take action. If no, practice letting go, just as you would release a leaf into a flowing river. Notice how this shift in mindset can transform the way you experience your challenges. Balancing wisdom and compassion, a harmonious dance. Imagine a bird trying to fly with only one wing. It's impossible, isn't it? The Dalai Lama teaches us that wisdom and compassion are like two wings that we need in order to soar above our fears. Wisdom gives us the clarity to see the world as it truly is, to understand its impermanence, its interconnectedness, and the root causes of our suffering. Compassion, on the other hand, gives us the courage and motivation to act, to make a difference, and to face the world's challenges with an open heart. Wisdom without compassion can make us cold and indifferent, while compassion without wisdom can lead us to burnout or misguided actions. When life feels overwhelming, pause and reflect, what's the wisest perspective I can take right now? And how can I approach this situation with kindness, toward myself and toward others? This balance creates not only a sense of inner peace but also a deep, enduring connection with the people around us. The Dalai Lama often speaks about how true wisdom is not just intellectual knowledge, it's the understanding that comes from lived experience and a deep awareness of our shared humanity. This kind of wisdom allows us to see beyond our immediate fears and anxieties to the bigger picture. It helps us recognize that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves but for everyone around us. Consider the example of a doctor who treats patients with both skill and empathy. A doctor who is technically proficient but lacks compassion might provide adequate medical care, but a doctor who combines knowledge with genuine care has the power to heal on a much deeper level. Similarly, in our own lives, when we balance wisdom with compassion, we become a source of comfort and strength not just for ourselves but for those around us. Think about the story of Nelson Mandela, who showed both wisdom and compassion in his approach to ending apartheid in South Africa. He understood the importance of reconciliation rather than revenge, recognizing that true healing could only come through understanding and forgiveness. His wisdom allowed him to see the bigger picture, while his compassion enabled him to bring people together, even those who had once been his enemies. Another example is the story of the Bodhisattva in Buddhist tradition, a being who has attained enlightenment but chooses to remain in the cycle of suffering to help others achieve freedom. The Bodhisattva embodies the perfect balance of wisdom and compassion, understanding the nature of reality while acting selflessly for the benefit of others. This ideal serves as a reminder that true fulfillment lies not in personal escape from suffering, but in helping others find peace. Practical tip: write down one fear that troubles you. Then, next to it, write an act of kindness, either for yourself or for someone else, that you could offer today. Notice how this simple exercise creates a sense of empowerment and shifts your focus from fear to love. Practicing compassion in daily life, small acts, big impact. What if every small kindness you offered today became a ripple of positive change that extended far beyond your immediate circle? Compassion isn't something to be practiced only during meditation or in moments of reflection. It's something that can be woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. Every smile you share, every moment of patience you offer, every word of gratitude you speak, these small acts are seeds of compassion that grow into something beautiful. The Dalai Lama emphasizes the importance of loving kindness meditation, where you visualize sending positive energy to yourself, your loved ones, people you feel neutral about, and even those who may have wronged you. Isn't it a powerful thought that by expanding our circle of compassion, we are not only reducing our own fears but also contributing to a more compassionate world? Think about a pebble dropped into a pond. The ripples spread out, touching every part of the surface. In the same way, every small act of compassion we perform sends out ripples that can touch the lives of others in ways we may never fully understand. Imagine you hold the door open for someone, and that simple act brightens their day, leading them to be kinder to someone else. This chain reaction of kindness can create a world that feels a little less cold and a lot more connected. Consider the story of a teacher who takes the time to listen to a struggling student. That moment of compassion could change the trajectory of that child's life, giving them the confidence to overcome their challenges. Compassion doesn't require grand gestures, it's the small, everyday actions that truly make a difference. Think of the story of the Pay It Forward movement, where one act of kindness inspires another, creating an ongoing chain of goodwill. A stranger buys a coffee for the person behind them in line, and that person is then inspired to do something kind for someone else. This simple concept has touched countless lives, proving that small acts can indeed lead to big changes. Challenge for today: perform one act of kindness, big or small, for someone you wouldn't normally think to help. It could be a stranger, a neighbor, or even someone you've had difficulties with. How does this shift your perspective on your own worries and fears? Mindful action in a chaotic world. Embrace simplicity. We live in a world filled with unpredictability and chaos, and often, the natural response is to feel anxious or overwhelmed. But isn't it true that there's also beauty in unpredictability? The Dalai Lama advises us to focus on mindful action rather than succumbing to reactive worry. The difference is profound. Mindful action is about engaging fully with the present moment, making the best choices we can, and then letting go of the rest. Simplicity is another key to peace. Have you ever noticed how much lighter life feels when you simplify it? When you declutter not only your physical space but also your mental and emotional lives, you create more room for the things that truly matter: love, peace, connection. It's amazing how much of our anxiety comes from the unnecessary complexities we invite into our lives. By reducing distractions, we create a space where clarity and peace can flourish. In today's fast-paced world, we often feel pressured to do more, be more, and have more. This constant striving can lead to burnout and a sense of emptiness. The Dalai Lama encourages us to simplify our lives by focusing on what truly matters. This doesn't mean giving up on our goals or ambitions. It means being mindful of what we choose to pursue and making sure it aligns with our values. Consider the example of someone who decides to spend less time on social media and more time connecting with loved ones. By simplifying their daily routine, they create more opportunities for meaningful interactions, which in turn brings a sense of fulfillment and joy. When we let go of the things that don't serve us, we make space for the things that do. Think of the story of Henry David Thoreau, who retreated to Walden Pond to live simply and focus on what truly mattered. His experiment in simplicity was not about escaping life, but about truly engaging with it, about stripping away the non-essential to find the beauty and meaning that lies beneath. Thoreau's insights continue to inspire us to this day, reminding us that less can indeed be more. Mindful action also means taking responsibility for our choices without becoming overwhelmed by what we cannot control. Imagine a gardener tending to a garden. The gardener cannot control the weather, but they can choose how to care for the plants. In the same way, we can't control everything in our lives, but we can choose how we respond. This mindful approach to action helps us stay grounded, even amidst chaos. Mindful habit: limit your exposure to negative news or social media today. Instead, spend that time doing something that brings you joy or fulfillment. Take note of the difference this simple action makes in your overall state of mind. Conclusion. As we walk this journey called life, fear will inevitably cross our path. Sometimes it will loom large and seem insurmountable, but the Dalai Lama's teachings remind us that we have a choice to respond differently. Through meditation, the cultivation of compassion, and understanding the impermanent nature of our challenges, we can transform fear from an obstacle into a stepping stone toward growth and fulfillment. Take a moment to reflect: how can you bring more wisdom, kindness, and mindfulness into your life today? Isn't it inspiring to think that by doing so, you are not only healing yourself but also helping to create a more compassionate and connected world? Every step toward inner peace is also a step toward creating a more loving humanity. So why not take that step today, with courage and an open heart? Imagine the ripple effect if each of us committed to living with just a bit more compassion and wisdom every day. How might our relationships change? How might our communities transform? The Dalai Lama's teachings remind us that the path to a more peaceful world begins within each of us. It's not about grand gestures or sweeping changes, it's about the small, consistent actions we take every day to cultivate peace, love, and understanding. Consider the example of Martin Luther King Jr., whose message of nonviolence and compassion changed the world. His wisdom and courage inspired millions to act from a place of love rather than hate. We may not all be called to lead a movement, but we can all lead by example in our own lives, spreading kindness wherever we go. Final thought: every small action toward peace is a gift, not just to yourself, but to the world. Let's walk this path together, one mindful, compassionate step at a time.